So it started one night while I was on the deck. My dogs ran off after something and I didn't notice they were gone. Eventually, I heard repetitious, rhythmic knocking about 2 or 3 yards to my left and below me, under the porch. Of course, the first thought that came to my mind is that it was a small rodent or something digging, but it went on for too long and didn't react to me stomping or yelling. I then thought about some deranged horror movie-esque lady laying prone on the ground and tapping the porch with her finger. At this point, after going on for about 5 minutes and the sound and or its source being unreactive to my provocation, I went inside for a gun and went back out to confront it. The noise stopped, and there were no signs of disturbance under the porch, so I went back inside only for the next hour or two to be filled with me shitting my pants with knocking surrounding me periodically. I was frozen on the couch as lighter bursts of knocking came from windows at my 7 and 9 o'clock as I determined whether I should go for a larger caliber or bigger Bible if something broke in. It died down, my paranoia receded, and I thought the experience was over. I now hear periodic knocking, and some of my shit keeps disappearing and reappearing without my involvement, like faucet handles, knives, glasses. I live alone. I know this reads like a shitty horror story or something. I was very skeptical before this, but honestly, I just want y'all to humor me with what this could be and solutions for it. I'm trying to get a house cat right now, just for reassurance. I've found knockers on the internet, which match pretty well, although I haven't had any imminent structural collapse near me. I also determined it can't be piping since there's none under the porch or too near the windows, and I wasn't running water at that point. I do have Native American roots and have looked into Choctaw Little People, but I don't think they match well. I don't think any person is fucking with me, although I can't be for certain. And it's not rats. I've had mice and possum in the attic, which are strangely gone now, and I believe I know the difference between their scampering and this weird knocking. The main reason I'm posting now without much preparation is 'cause it's ramped up tonight. Only been like 3 instances this month beforehand, and I'm paranoid. I'm just hoping this isn't schizophrenia or something similar affecting. Please, help me out. Hello, everyone. I've had no shortage of insane paranormal activity in my house in the past. Last night, with my window open, studying for some finals, I heard what sounded like a woman mourning. It went away after about 10 seconds, and I really just forgot about it. Fast forward 2 hours later, as I'm taking down the trash, then unloading groceries from the car, I'm on the porch and I hear some noises down at the end of the property. Mind you, the edge on each side is covered by woods. As I look down to see whatever I'm hearing, as clear as day, I hear a childish, playful voice say, "Come here!" Now, the back of the yard is fenced off by neighbors, so I'm 90% sure it wasn't a human. The voice sounded too human. It had so much volume to it, and it sounded like it was within yards. Any idea what this could be? Last night, my husband and I were asleep in our bedroom where our youngest son sleeps as well. Our 2 older children, 7 and 5, sleep in their room. Around 3:45 a.m., my husband and I are suddenly woken up by a really loud crying that seems to be coming from our door. It sounds like our 5-year-old, so he gets up to check on the kids. He comes back and says that they are both passed out still and checked to see if they were faking being asleep, but they weren't. I also asked them each separately today if they remember waking up or if they heard the other one crying, and they both seemed confused and didn't understand why I was asking that. There were no TVs on when this happened either, and none of our neighbors have kids. We are the only ones in our complex. It was so loud. In 2017, I had an experience where I saw a little boy standing next to my bed, and I thought it was my son, now 7. So I got up to put him back to bed, and by the time I got up to pick him up, he was gone. So I went to my son's room, and he was asleep. That was in a different house. We have lived in our current place for 2 years, and I've had a few weird things happen, but they all stopped after I did a cleansing about a year ago. Any advice? Or should I just brush it off and treat it as a one-and-done type of event? I enjoy the paranormal and love learning about it, but it does give me anxiety when trying to sleep, which doesn't help my insomnia. There has been a strange thing happening to me lately, and I'm not sure what exactly brought it on, but I think I may have several ghost cats living in my room. To preface, I've had many cats in my life, most being 8 at a time since I was little, so naturally I have had cats die either from old age or illness. I've never felt anything like this before, however. It started recently, several weeks ago, as I would be settling into bed. I would feel something walking around, like one of my cats. However, when I looked to see if one of my cats was actually there, there's nothing. I thought it was just me at first. It kept happening, but I figured maybe it was just my imagination. Well, starting last week, I decided to see what would happen if I didn't look at whatever was walking around my bed, and what happened was very strange. Whatever this thing was kept moving up the bed, closer to me, and eventually there would be more than one wandering the bed and on top of me, too. I can feel the weight of them, whether they are laying on my legs or my chest. Sometimes I can feel one against my back or side, as I usually sleep without a shirt on. I can feel heat coming off of something against my skin. I can even feel them breathing, which is the biggest indication I know they're there. But also this tingling sensation when they walk by or touch my skin. Whenever I move, they go away, and whenever I look, they go away too. At night now, whenever I lay down, they immediately come out, either to snuggle or to lay on my legs or to walk around. I'm not afraid of them. If anything, I love them and never want them to go away. I discovered that I can also make them come out in the daytime if I ask them to while I'm laying down. I did this today. There was one on my chest as I could feel it, so I tried to pet it, and I could feel my hand moving through something, like a barrier to its body, I guess, and my whole hand felt like static. It's so strange, but so fascinating. I really do love my ghost cats. Has anyone else experienced something like this? I've heard it's quite a common experience. So I moved into a 2-story house with 2 units about 2 months ago. My sister lives above me, and I'm in the lower unit. Ever since I got there, I got bad vibes, especially in the basement, and whenever my dog was there, he was very anxious to leave. A couple weeks ago, my bedroom door was closed. While I was getting dressed, it opened up, and it's a hard door to open. I didn't think much of it, like maybe I didn't close it all the way. A couple weeks later, my one hair trimmer stopped working completely. No matter how hard I pressed the buttons, it wouldn't turn on. While I was on Xbox with my friend one night, I heard a buzzing from the bathroom and my heart dropped. When I walked into the bathroom, my trimmer was just sitting there, buzzing. My friend kept calling my name, but I couldn't say anything. I was in shock. Last night I was in my room around midnight and I heard what sounded like a lawnmower. At first, I thought it was my neighbor doing something at night for some reason, but I realized it was coming from my bathroom. I went in and couldn't believe it. The trimmer turned on again. The day before, I tried for 3 minutes to turn it on, and nothing. I put it on my sink and went back to bed. This morning, I went to brush my teeth, and the trimmer was in the middle of the sink. I guess it fell in somehow. After telling my sister about all this, she told me that last night her dog randomly was looking at her door, and he started growling and backing up as if he were trying to protect her. She also said she saw a shadow figure move in her room. Paranormal stuff isn't weird for my family. My sister has seen our grandfather's spirit, and my mom has seen many members of family. My auntie has also seen spirits. Tonight, me and my sister are going to sage the place, and I'm going to light a prayer candle. I also plan to recite the Lord's Prayer. From what I hear, shadow figures and dogs growling is never good. Is there anything else I should do or not do? I have a tendency to stay up too late and not get enough sleep. Lately, my oven has been beeping and doing random things like starting the broiler and the timer. Tonight, it read RSTPS, which I read as rest please. Now, I might be overly exhausted and making this up in my mind, but I searched the internet for this error code and couldn't find it. I thought maybe it was reset P5, but I can't find any codes like that for this model oven. My mom passed away last July from Lewy body dementia. I blamed her lifestyle, stress, not sleeping, and eating poorly. I've been trying to get better about taking care of myself so that I don't get this disease, as I don't want to put my children through the hell that I went through with my mom. I couldn't help but think she used this overly sensitive, possibly defective oven control board to send me a personal message to take better care of myself. I got chills at this thought, stepped into the next room to grab my phone to take a picture of the message, but the message cleared on its own. I think it's time for bed. It's been about 1.5 years since I lived in Minnesota. It was nice, but the snow wasn't something I enjoyed very much, at least not several feet every year. When the opportunity to move to a warmer place came up with my family, it was an understandably easy decision to go along with them. Since then, I have experienced what seems like lifetimes of lessons and events, one of which I will be telling you here. I've always had plenty of trouble getting along with people and jobs, and as a result, I had gotten myself into plenty of trouble. I moved away from my parents' house a few months after moving out of state with them, and during this time, a friend had paid my way to come back to my hometown to visit. I stayed with my sister during most of my visit. That point in my life was especially hard. I felt as though I had nothing else to lose, and my self-proclaimed atheism crumbled when I was offered a visit to church with another friend of mine. I thought, why the hell not? I've tried everything else to claw myself out of my own mess. And boy, was it one of the most important things I have ever decided to do. After I attended my first service in over 12 years, it felt as though my eyes were opened to much of the scum that would hide within my mind, and as a result, I have started to experience unexplainable events. This story is recent. It seems as though these paranormal experiences happen only when I begin to take large strides in improving my life, like quitting marijuana or learning to understand myself. This most recent experience happened when I helped one of my friends get out of the same hole I was in, and we both experienced the malice of the entity trying to hold us down. As we sat on my bed chatting of our lives and improvements late in the night, we both began to feel a very familiar feeling to myself. We were being watched, and whatever was watching us was full of hatred and aggression. My friend had even begun to hear growling and whispering, but I was only able to feel its anger. Goosebumps covered both of our arms, and it felt like something was going to attack me at any moment, stalking, waiting, plotting. I started to pray, asking for help and claiming the name of our Savior to drive away all that is evil. Even as I type this, I feel a bit of attention gathering on me, but bit by bit, the presence faded into nothing. After some time passed, we decided to get some sleep. The rest of that night was uneventful, and I figured that the presence would no longer appear. What an optimistic thought. One night later, I was laying in my bed listening to music and decided to call it a night. Taking off my headphones, I fell asleep quickly, but it didn't go past the point of being half aware of my surroundings, as well as dreaming softly. Half awake, half asleep. I dreamt of my old dab tools, the tools I once used to dose myself with outrageous amounts of THC. I had been sober for about 3 weeks by this point, and in my dream I was discussing the same presence I felt in my home. I was making very valid points about how I saw that it was attempting to take me back into my dark habits, about how the presence is easy to feel, and about how I no longer wished to damage myself as I had for years. As I was speaking in my dream, my hands stopped touching my tools and instead began to play with a large metal ball, one that was calming to me. I rolled it between my fingers, and that's when I began to feel the same presence loom over my sleeping body. My arms erupted in shifting and sporadic goosebumps. It felt as though the cold chills were running up and down my arms. Each wave of the goosebumps felt more hateful and angry, until I felt consistent chills moving from my wrists, up my arms, and to my chest. I stopped breathing in my sleep, and in my dream, I began to hear a deep and angry scream erupt in front of me. My body felt like it was being attacked by something that wanted to kill me. My fear caused my eyes to snap open toward my closet. 3 pitch-black sockets met my gaze. The contrast of the creature's skinny gray frame and face against the white wall behind it made an outline of its unnaturally skinny frame. Its body faced the wall across from it, but the head was cocked in my direction, staring at me with all 3 of the holes in its face. It had no mouth, and the body was as skinny as its head. It blinked, and I blinked, and it was gone. I gasped as I was once again able to breathe and immediately began to pray, soon falling back to sleep. I've not seen the creature since, but the morning after my experience, I illustrated the figure in my sketchbook. I covered the page with crosses, the name of God, the name of our Savior, and the words, "You do not belong here." Ever since I hung the picture where the creature once stood, I have not felt the presence nearly as powerfully as I once had. I hope this story could help someone understand that there are forces that exist in a world adjacent to ours. Sometimes you feel them, sometimes you don't, but that doesn't mean they're not always waiting, watching, stalking, trying to find a fault within you. Stay safe out there, and let me know if you need someone to pray for you. My husband and I finally moved into our new home around 6 months ago. It's a beautiful area with woods all the way around us. One of the first nights living here, our 2-year-old daughter was asleep on the couch, and when I came into the room, she was standing on the back of the couch staring out the window, saying, "It's Daddy. Daddy's outside." My husband was not even home at this time. After that instance, she started closing herself in our bathroom and would get angry when I would open the door to check on her. I started listening at the door, and she would be talking to someone. After listening for a minute, I would open the door again to see her staring straight at me with the creepiest grin I've ever seen. She did this multiple times. It wasn't long after this that she started telling me that there was a bad man who was going to flip over me and break my head. She told me this multiple times a day for weeks on end. My daughter is only 2 years old and has never heard anything like this. Our front door also started opening on its own with the door locked. What is going on in my house? I've always felt uneasy outside around the woods, but never in my own home until these things started happening. About 20 years ago, I was woken up in the middle of the night by the feeling of someone sitting on the edge of my bed. I expected to see one of my kids, but instead, I saw an unfamiliar young woman in her late teens or early 20s watching me. I asked who she was, but she didn't answer. I asked what she wanted, but she didn't answer that either. She never said anything. After a few seconds, she stood up and watched me for another couple of seconds, then she smiled and walked into my closet. We had just moved back in with my parents after my husband had broken his back and couldn't work, and there were still boxes stacked up in front of the closet door waiting to be unpacked. This girl walked through the boxes. The house had been built by my father when I was 1 on property that had been farmland belonging to my great-grandfather, so I don't think anyone had died there. I was thinking it was a dream or a hallucination, but then I was telling my younger brother, who still lived at home, about my strange dream, and he had seen her too. I never saw her again and no longer live there. However, I still get that feeling of someone sitting on my bed in the middle of the night, and it freaks me out. Hello, my Vickies. Thanks for listening. If you like what you heard and you haven't subscribed already, please do, and hit the like button as they're both very helpful to my growth here on YouTube. I post every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday by 5 p.m. Pacific. If you have a suggestion or would just like to say hello, please leave a comment. I love to hear from my subscribers and others. If you have a story of your own and you might like to have it read on the channel, send it to me at veronica45stories@gmail.com. Link is also in the description, as are other ways to support the channel if you feel so inclined. Thanks again so much for being here. I appreciate it beyond measure. And until next time, be good.